Have you ever felt like you're wired differently than everyone around you? Like there's something in your DNA that makes you process the world in a way most people can't understand? There's a reason for that. And if you've ever felt like you don't quite belong in the world everyone else seems comfortable in, this might explain why. You're not broken. You might just be rare. I spent years thinking something was wrong with me. I'd watch people thrive in environments that drained me. I'd see them enjoy things that felt hollow to me. I'd wonder why I couldn't just be normal, why everything felt harder, deeper, more intense. Then I learned about genetic traits that only a small percentage of people carry. Traits that make you process the world differently. Traits that come with a cost, but also a gift. And suddenly everything made sense. If you've ever felt out of place, misunderstood, or like you're playing a game everyone else knows the rules to accept you, stay with me. Because what I'm about to show you might change how you see yourself forever. And if this resonates, save it. You'll need it the next time you feel like the odd one out. Let's start with the most misunderstood one. The trait that makes you feel everything too much. If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, or overthinking it, there's a chance you carry something called sensory processing sensitivity. It's not a disorder. It's a genetic variation that affects about 15 to 20% of the population. Here's what it actually means. Your nervous system processes information more deeply than most people's. You notice subtleties others miss. You feel emotions, yours and other people's, with an intensity that can be overwhelming. You need more time to recharge because your brain is constantly absorbing and analyzing everything around you. Most people see a room. You see the tension in someone's posture, the shift in tone, the unsaid words hanging in the air. And because the world wasn't built for people like you learn to think something's wrong with you. You try to toughen up, numb out, fit in, but you can't. Because it's not a weakness, it's how you're wired. The cost? You get overstimulated easily. Crowds drain you. Small talk feels like sandpaper. You need silence and space just to feel like yourself again. The gift? You see what others don't. You feel what others miss. You create, connect, and understand on a level most people will never access. If you've ever felt too much in a world that rewards feeling nothing, this might be you. But here's where it gets interesting, because there's another trait that pairs with this one in the rarest combinations. And it's the reason some people seem to operate on an entirely different level of focus. Let me ask you something. Can you lose yourself in something for hours and forget the world exists? Not scrolling, I mean real immersion. Deep work. Flow states that feel like time travel. If yes, you might carry a genetic variant tied to hyperfocus. It's the same neurological wiring often linked to ADHD, but here's the twist. It's not a deficit. It's a different operating system. When most people focus, it's steady, linear, predictable. When you focus, it's all or nothing. Either you're barely present or you're so locked in that nothing else exists. The world calls this inconsistency, distraction, lack of discipline. But that's because they're measuring you with the wrong ruler. Your brain doesn't run on sustained attention. It runs on interest. When something matters to you, when it lights up that rare wiring, you don't just focus. You disappear into it. You see patterns others miss. You make connections that seem obvious to you but genius to everyone else. The cost? You can't force it. You can't fake interest. And in a world built on deadlines, compliance, and doing things you don't care about, you struggle. The gift? When you find your thing, you don't just do it well. You do it at a level most people can't comprehend. Because while they're managing focus, you're experiencing it as a state of being. If you've ever been called inconsistent, lazy, or unfocused, but also brilliant, obsessive, or unstoppable when something clicks, this is your wiring. And here's the part most people don't tell you. These traits don't exist in isolation. They cluster. If you have one, there's a good chance you have others. Which brings me to the one that makes you question everything, even when you shouldn't. There's a genetic trait linked to something called intellectual overexcitability. It's part of a framework psychologists use to identify giftedness, but it's not about IQ. It's about how your mind moves. If you have this, you don't just think. You question. You analyze. You take ideas apart and reconstruct them. You can't accept surface-level answers because your brain is constantly searching for depth, meaning, and truth. Everyone else hears "it is what it is." You hear, But why is it what it is? The cost? You overthink everything. You get stuck in loops. You question your own thoughts until you're exhausted. You can't turn it off even when you desperately want to. The gift? You see through the noise. You don't accept mediocrity or shallow explanations. You build frameworks, philosophies, and systems that most people will never think to create. If you've ever felt cursed by your own mind, paralyzed by questions no one else seems to care about, this might be the reason. But here's what makes this dangerous. If you don't learn to direct this trait, it turns inward. And when it does, it becomes the voice that tells you you're not enough, that you're doing it wrong, that everyone else has it figured out except you. But they don't. They're just not wired to see what you see. Comment one word that describes how your mind feels most of the time. I'm curious what this community carries. Now let's talk about the trait that makes you feel like you're living in two worlds at once. There's a genetic predisposition toward what's called existential awareness. It's not something you develop, it's something you're born with. And if you have it, you've probably felt it your entire life. It's the feeling that everyone else is playing a game you can see through, that the things people obsess over, status, appearance, validation, feel hollow to you, that you're aware of something bigger, deeper, more real, but you can't quite name it. You watch people chase things that won't matter in 5 years and you feel disconnected, not superior, just separate. Like you're on the outside looking in. The cost? Loneliness. Because most people aren't having the conversations you need to have. Most people aren't asking the questions you're asking. And when you try to talk about meaning, purpose, or the nature of existence, you're met with blank stares or shallow advice. The gift? You don't waste time on things that don't matter. You're not easily manipulated by trends, status games, or external validation. You're searching for something real, and that search makes you dangerous to a world built on distraction. If you've ever felt like you're living in the wrong era, the wrong culture, or the wrong frequency, this is your trait showing up. And here's the truth nobody tells you. This awareness doesn't make life easier. It makes it harder. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. But maybe that's the point. Maybe not everyone is supposed to be comfortable in the noise. Maybe some of us are wired to step back, to question, to see what's hidden beneath the surface, and to build something real out of it. Which leads me to the final one, the trait that ties all of this together. If you carry these traits, there's one more you probably have. High autonomy drive. It's a genetic tendency toward independence, not rebellion, not defiance, just a deep, unshakable need to move through the world on your own terms. You don't resist authority because you're difficult. You resist it because your nervous system rejects being controlled. You can't perform for external approval. You can't sustain work that doesn't align with your values. You can't fake enthusiasm for systems that don't make sense to you. The world calls this arrogance, stubbornness, but that's because the world is built for compliance, and you're wired for sovereignty. The cost? You struggle in traditional environments. You clash with managers, institutions, and structures that demand obedience over autonomy. You lose opportunities because you won't bend, even when bending would be easier. The gift? You can't be bought. You can't be manipulated. You can't be shaped into something you're not. And in a world that's constantly trying to mold you, that's rare. If you've ever been called difficult, stubborn, or unemployable, but you know deep down you're just protecting something sacred, this is why. You're not fighting the world. You're protecting your wiring. So here's what this all means. If you recognize yourself in even half of what I just said, you're carrying traits that make up less than 10% of the population. And when multiple traits cluster together, which they often do, you're in an even smaller percentage. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not failing at being normal. You're just trying to survive in a world that wasn't designed for people like you. And here's the hard part. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to build the life you need. No one's going to validate the way you see the world. You have to do it yourself, which means you need a framework, a way to work with your wiring instead of against it. I call it the rare DNA framework. It's built on 3 principles: environment design, energy sovereignty, and purpose alignment. Principle 1, environment design. You can't thrive in environments built for average wiring. Stop trying. Start designing your life around your needs, not what you think you should tolerate. This means controlling noise, controlling input, controlling who has access to your energy. If you're highly sensitive, you need silence. If you're hyperfocused, you need uninterrupted time. If you're existentially aware, you need depth. Stop apologizing for it. Start building it. Principle 2, energy sovereignty. Your energy isn't infinite, and it's more valuable than most people's because you process more, feel more, and think more. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. This means saying no to people, places, and obligations that drain you, even when it makes you look selfish. You're not selfish. You're surviving. Principle 3, purpose alignment. You can't do work that doesn't matter. Your nervous system won't let you. So stop trying to force passion for things that don't light you up. Find the one thing that does, the thing that makes time disappear, that makes you feel alive, that pulls focus without effort, and build your life around it. Not someday. Now, when you align these 3 principles with your wiring, everything changes. You stop fighting yourself. You stop apologizing for being too much or not enough. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You start building something real, something rare, something yours. Hold that feeling. That's you coming back to yourself. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who see what others don't, who feel what others miss, who refuse to settle for shallow, surface-level, comfortable lives. It needs people like you. But only if you stop pretending to be someone else. Only if you stop apologizing for the way you're wired. Only if you build a life that works with your DNA, not against it. Remember when I said you might be rare? I wasn't guessing. If you're still here, if this resonated, if you felt seen for the first time in a long time, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You've been carrying traits that most people will never understand. Traits that make life harder, deeper, more intense, but also more real. And the only question left is this. Are you going to keep hiding them? Or are you going to start building with them? If this gave you clarity, stay close. This is the kind of truth we protect here. Maybe being rare isn't a burden. Maybe it's an invitation to stop playing the game everyone else is playing and start building the life only you can see.